So today I'm going to talk about an inside-out learning model, but in order to do that I want to contrast that to the traditional learning model. Now I'm going to talk about this in terms of higher education because it's really what I know best, but I think some of it is transferable into K-12 education, but in reality I actually think K-12 education is a little bit ahead of higher ed in understanding cognitive issues and learning as a pedagogy. I also want to mention that part of what I'm doing here is actually funded through the National Science Foundation through a TWOS grant where we're studying open education resources and how to make those most useful for college students. So I'm going to talk today about the traditional learning model first. And traditionally, or actually currently as it works right now, students come to class and it's usually the first time they've seen material. And they sit in class in a lecture setting, often with PowerPoint slides and the teacher in the front of the classroom speaking to them about what they're learning. And then they leave the classroom and they go home and they work, they might read the book, they work on homework problems or problem sets. They might apply what they've learned to a project, and we're hoping they synthesize it, like write an essay or expand on what we've talked about in class. And then they generally come back to the classroom and we assess, either by them turning in the homework or turning in a project, or we give them a midterm and or a final. So that's usually how this assessment works. And that's a pretty common model, and I'm sure you've been through it, and it's really what most of our classes are. I actually had a student do a study, and it ended up about 85% of the classroom time is spent in this lecture mode. Now, if we contrast that to inside-out learning model, and in this learning model, we actually are flipping what we do in each of the classes. And Khan Academy calls this flip the classroom. Other people are calling it that too. We are calling it inside out, but it's really the same thing. The idea is what you used to do in the classroom, now you're doing at home. And what you used to do at home, you're doing in the classroom. So what we do is before they come to class, we require that they watch a video, sometimes in a lecture like this one, sometimes an open education resource. We also might have them look at some articles or review some YouTube videos, watch a TED Talk. So we require that they do something ahead of time. And then we ask them to apply that knowledge in just a cursory way, either a reflection or some sort of accountability about, yes, I learned, I did look at that stuff, and this is how I'm proving I did. So we have them do that before they come to class as a way of then when they come to the classroom, they're actually ready to actively learn. Now, you guys all have done this in your lab classes, and we do it here in our labs too. All the things that Martin runs are all have an application that they're supposed to have learned beforehand. So we might have a lab activity. We actually might have them actually work on homework problems in the classroom in small groups. I have been really successful in working with project-based learning where what they're learning on the content videos, they're actually applying to the projects in class, and I'm there to coach them on those projects. We also might do some synthesis. I've worked with a colleague of mine in the physics department, and he just does demos and asks challenging questions to the students as a way of synthesizing what they already learned before they come to class. And then the assessment. We sometimes do this outside the classroom, but we're finding that actually there's a little bit of problems associated with assessment, and we're more ending now to demonstrating in the classroom. But what we're doing is sort of a demonstrated mastery. So we don't actually test them on midterms and finals. We test them in a way that they have multiple chances to demonstrate mastery. That we actually believe that in a sort of peripheral way that their learning, actually, we would like them to learn at almost an A level, not a C level. So demonstrating mastery allows them to have multiple options of doing that. So that's pretty much how we look at the learning model.